From a scientist standpoint, what does alcohol do to your body? Do you know? And also the greatest ninth step story ever.
I am redeemed. You set me free. So I'll shake off these heavy chains and wipe away every stain. That I'm not who I used to be. I am redeemed.
It is 21st day of April in the Lord's year 2014, and I'm J. Michael McCoy, and this is Recovery Monday, a program sponsored and supported by Powell CDC. It's a program in which we help you understand alcoholism and life's hurts, habits, and hang-ups. It's a program where we give you some insight as to maybe there's somebody in your family that is suffering, that is struggling, and by this program we can kind of give you some ideas on what to do about that. Phone lines are open if you've got questions. You don't have to use your real name. You could be Bob or what's another good generic name?
Joe.
Betty, Joe, there you go. Oh, we got a Bob in the studio. I guess we can't use Bob. Anyway, don't be afraid to call. We don't trace calls or anything like that. Maybe you've got a question, and it's important because over those last weekend, you got together with family, and something was wrong with that grandson or that granddaughter, or your brother or sister just wasn't acting right, or that one strange uncle is getting stranger, and you smelled something, and you thought it was alcohol, but you're not really sure, and now you're scared, you're afraid, you're frightened, and you're worried. What can I do? Today, maybe you'll get that answer. 1-855-244-0077 in the Des Moines area. Simply 244-0077. That's a local number, and we'd love to hear from you. Bob Monserrate, the Cat in the Hat, is with us, along with Lila Stafford from Powell. And we have no other guests today because I have a story to share. And then I thought I would have some conversation with Bob and really learn about alcohol and what it does to the body. Because Bob is a forensic scientist. I've been with the state of Iowa for over 30 years.
35.
35 years. And Bob is one of the foremost leading experts sought after by lawyers to testify in court the effects of alcohol. And you've done this all over the country.
Well, I've done it mostly in Iowa, but I've been out of the country. Out of the state.
Yeah.
In other areas of the country.
So we'll talk to Bob a little bit about that. But I want to share a story with you. So the 8th step of a 12-step program is where you list all the people that you've wronged and that you're going to make an amend to. And amend is not I'm sorry. Mend is to mend the relationship back the best you can. And maybe there's no relationship there to ever have again, but at least you take away the pain, the hurt, and the sorrow that you may have caused that person. And in some cases, it's financial. You have borrowed money and not paid it back. You have stolen money and not lived up to it. You have not paid some bills, whatever the case may be. And I have to tell you that financial amends are the hardest ones for me to make, because the reason I don't pay somebody is not because I'm cheap or I don't have the money. It's because you didn't do the job.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you just didn't do the job right.
Right.
The other thing about mine, and please don't hear this as arrogant, but because of what I have done in my life for a living, and that would be restaurants and clubs and radio, I have literally employed thousands of people over my career, and how many hundreds of thousands listening to me on the radio. And your husband once told me that this didn't matter. I shouldn't worry myself about that. Other people have told me the same thing. But I know there are people out there that I harmed that I don't know, that I either called them out on the radio, they're a public official or a private official, or they're a young lady or a young man who worked for me for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 6 months, and I didn't treat them right, you know? I had a woman come up to me at church about a year ago and say, do you remember so-and-so? And I said, no. Well, she worked for you. She's my daughter. And I said, oh, no. I said, I'm sorry, I don't remember. She said you were a real jerk.
Ooh.
That's what she said to me. And I said, yeah, I'm sorry. I probably was. And I later found this young lady on Facebook and sent her a note that said, I'm sorry. But my challenge is there are always those people out there that I am unaware of or I'm aware of but don't think of that I owe an amend to. Well, one of those, and I'm not going to identify them, but one of those was a professional person who did some work for me, some what intellectual work for me 17 years ago on a project. And when I got his bill, it was $3,500. I thought that was about $2,000 too much, to be honest with you. And I made him take me to court to get the balance, and I stood before a judge and I lied. I said his work wasn't sufficient, and I lied. I just said all these different things just to lie so I didn't have to pay the bill. And guess what? I won the case. So for 17 years, I basically owe this guy $2,000. Okay? Mm-hmm. So Saturday, I have a friend that I have lunch with every once in a while, and we were going to go to lunch, and I said, where do you want to go? And she said, well, let's go to Mexican out by Jordan Creek. So we're just about ready to turn left, which would have taken us to Jordan Creek. And she said, no. Let's go to Noah's. I've been to Noah's forever. So we drive down to Noah's, and I walk into Noah's, and here, picking up a couple pizzas to go, is this professional person that I hadn't seen since I was in court 17 years ago, who I owed money to. Now, for those of you who have been mugged by Jesus, you'll understand this. Something happened, and it was like I was being... Remember Star Trek when they get caught in the tractor beam and there was nothing you could do and you could just... Emotionally and mentally, I was just drawn to this person, and I had no idea what I was going to say. But it was just happening. My feet were moving, and my brain was working, but it wasn't anything I was thinking or saying or doing or working or moving. And I got up there, and I stuck out my hand, and I said, hi. I said, how you doing? And he looked at me, and I know what he wanted to say. You know, get out of my face, you creep. And instead, he was nice and smiled, and I said, I want to apologize to you. I said, 17 years ago, I didn't treat you very well. And you know what he said? You're right, you didn't.
Ooh.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And I told him that I had quit drinking 4 years ago, and that I was in a 12-step program, and that part of my healing, part of my responsibility is to make amends with people that I have wronged. And he genuinely smiled and said, well, thank you. That's really nice of you. And then he begins to tell me about, quote unquote, his friend who has an alcohol problem and who he doesn't know what to do with. Now, this guy is not a believer, okay? So I listen to him as he talks about this friend, and I say, well, maybe there's no, maybe it's no coincidence that we met today. I said, I'll give you my card, and just give me an opportunity to get together with this friend. I said, I'm not going to come with men with white coats and carry him away, but just let me do that. And he was genuinely thankful that I had come up to say something to him, but more so that maybe he found an outlet for his friend who had an alcohol problem. And he patted me on the back, and actually he gave me a hug and shook my hand. He said, thanks very much. He said, you'll hear from me. And I stopped him. I said, wait a minute. I said, I owe you money. How much money do I owe you? And that kind of shocked him, but it didn't shock him too much because he knew exactly how much it was. He hadn't forgot it in 17 years. He said, well, you owe me about $2,000. And I said, okay, I'm going to get you a check. And he said, no, here's what I want you to do. I want you to find people that need that money, and I want you to help them out.
Wow.
And I said, I'd love to, on one condition, that I get to bring those people to you so they know that you're the one that made this possible. God uses you to provide the motivation, and he uses me to go out and find that individual. So I get to witness to this guy now, not only about a 12-step program and recovery, but also about the Lord. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to find 4 people that need $500 is what I'm going to do. I'm going to find 4 people, and to be honest with you, I'd like to find 4 single moms, because I really have a heart for them. They're always struggling and fighting. I'd like to find 4 of them and give them the cash or buy them what they need or whatever it is. But I'm going to be able to bring those people, how many ever there are, in front of this man and show him what God's work and what sobriety can do for somebody.
Cool.
Now, I don't know about you, but that's the neatest 9th step story.
Yeah.
It's almost as good as yours with your with Jim's ex-wife.
Yeah.
The first time I ever heard a 9th step story was at a meeting where Lila explained that the last amends she was ever going to make was to her husband's ex-wife, and it went great, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, for those of you that your spirituality doesn't include a God or a Christ or a Savior, just take that story and know that there is a power greater than yourself out there at work in this universe. It is a sovereign power, and it puts people together at the exact right times. For those of you like us who believe in that power is named Jesus, understand that God will use you. Jesus will use you 17 years later to who knows what's going to come of this. Maybe this guy's friend, we're going to get him sober. I mean, maybe maybe this is the beginning of the blessings, not just that one day, that 5 minutes at Noah's. Anyway, I had the best Easter I ever had, and nothing else could have had. Nothing else needed to happen, because that just started my whole day off perfect. So anyway, I wanted to share that with you guys.
I like that story.
And you're going to hear it a couple times because I'm going to share it in my 12-step meetings the next week or so. But so anyway, that's my story. All right, we're going to take a break here in just a few minutes. And now, Bob, you've said before that one of the interesting things about your story is you were raised in a very alcoholic home, and that's why you knew you would never become a drinker.
Yeah, that's correct. My father was the alcoholic, and his brothers were alcoholics. And his brothers, well, one committed suicide, hung himself. Another one was murdered, locked in a room in a closet in a house, and the house was burned down around him. Oh. And the other one died prematurely, like I believe my father did, because he was a heavy drinker. And my family sent us to church. You know, my mom and dad wanted us to go. And so, of course, we had some teaching early on. And, of course, the teaching back then was the teaching of a lot of don'ts.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shouldn't do this, shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
You know, stay away from alcohol. But we had firsthand knowledge of what alcohol does to families.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to have anything to do with that, nor did my older brother or my older sister. I was the baby of the family. And all 3 of us never have been into alcohol. And I'm not saying I was totally a teetotaler, because I've had wine on occasion, you know, or champagne at a wedding or something like that, but never got into it. And so that was my background. And my brother and I used to haul my father out of the car. I don't know how he never got stopped, but he was so drunk he couldn't even walk, but he drove his cars, and we'd go out there and get him back into the house and put him in bed and cover him up. And so he had it pretty bad. And even when he got to a point of really being a believer, he was never free of his drinking and smoking. He would hide it, but he was never freed from that.
Did he admit that he was an alcoholic?
No. Well, not to us.
Yeah.
No, never. And so we never heard of any of the treatments that they had back then, because he was. And then he got my mother to drink with him, and he got my uncle to drink with him. You know, they don't want to drink alone.
Yeah.
But he never forced it on us. He would say, "Hey, taste this beer," to me, and I would, of course, say, "Yuck, this is terrible. How could you drink this stuff?" So, but he never really forced it on us.
So is it fair to say that you've never had a hangover?
Yes, never.
Imagine that.
Imagine that.
I'm 62. I've never had a hangover.
You've never been intoxicated?
Never.
I would never be able to say that.
Yeah.
All right, we're coming back, and Bob's going to talk to us about some of the chemical properties. We're gonna unpack alcohol and find out why it does what it does, and you're going to find that the accuser is all over this. Okay, because this drug was made to do just what it does and everything else. We're coming back live on Recovery Monday.
A father who is headed toward another heart attack. A woman who struggles daily with diabetes and her memory. A boy whose headaches keep him out of school. A mother who one morning discovers a lump. A girl whose condition defies diagnosis. You come to us because you need answers, but you also need more. You need understanding of what you're going through. You need comfort. You need to be treated as an individual, not a condition. You need to be included in your own care. You are the point of everything we do. That's why we're changing to Unity Point Health. It's a model of care that will help us work better together, where the physician who knows you best takes the lead, coordinating your care through every step, from the hospital to specialists to rehabilitation to health services in the home and in the community, to making sure the treatments are effective. By working as a team, we surround you with care, helping you manage your health and your conditions, guiding you to making better choices and living a healthier life. The point of Unity is you. Unity Point Health.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places, especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart, and it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Minutes after the hour on this 21st day of April in the Lord's year 2014. Hope you had a spectacular Easter. And this is Recovery Monday, brought to you by the good folks at Powell CDC. Lila Stafford, a chief bottle washer there at Powell. You're a care coordinator, right?
Aftercare.
Aftercare coordinator.
Yeah.
And Bob Monserrate, the cat in the hat, is with us. And today he's in the guest seat. Although you can't tell that from where you're at because it all looks the same, but he's in the guest seat today because he's actually our guest because I wanted to unpack alcohol as a chemical. I wanted to unpack alcohol without a brand name on it, without a taste associated with it, although we'll talk about caramelization and things like that give it taste. But I wanted to talk about why. I mean, it's no accident, and this was unfortunately the work. I don't know. Is it the work of the accuser that alcohol was invented, or is that unfair to those who can have a glass of wine, to those who sip wine at communion, to those who normal people who can drink moderately and stop when it gets too late?
Well, yes. I mean, even in the Bible, Jesus, turned water into wine.
Yeah.
Wine was a drink that was consumed during biblical times. Paul was saying a little wine was good to the stomach. I think it was for Timothy. And so, yeah, people may argue, well, it wasn't the same kind of wine that we made today, but they still fermented, fruit of the vine, the grapes. And so even the Bible talks about do not be drunk with wine. But for the priest...
And that's why I drank gin, because I wasn't going to sin.
Yeah. But for the priests, there were some areas where they said that you should not drink wine at all because it would cloud your judgment.
Right.
And if you had to make decisions or judge, because there were priests were judges too, and they would make decisions over arguments and stuff, and so they were told to avoid it, to not drink wine. So it was something that they've known about all those years, and people consumed it.
All right. Now, wine comes from a berry only?
No, it could come from you're talking about
Wine.
yeah, it comes from grapes or some kind of fruit.
Okay. So wine comes from fruit or grapes. Isn't grape a fruit?
Yes.
Okay, so it comes from fruits.
Yes. Grapes, peach,
And
raspberry.
it's fermented.
It's fermented. It has sugar in there.
Okay,
and-
now talk to me like I'm a 6-year-old. What does fermented mean?
Well, it gives time for it to react with yeast, and you put sugar and yeast together, and then it will, at certain temperature, will interact, react, and the byproduct of fermentation, is alcohol is given off.
And do you separate that alcohol from the nectar, from the fruit?
Yeah, you would strain it out,
And,
take out all the solids.
and the fermentation still has the taste of that fruit.
Sure, it would. Now, the fermentation process, it produces low levels of alcohol. And so when you want to get into the hard liquor, you have to distill that further on to have a higher concentration of alcohol.
All right. Well, we'll go to hard spirits in a minute. So back to wine. So wine was simply a question of throwing some yeast. And is yeast a plant? You grow yeast?
Well, it's a type of a bacteria that
It's a
you
byproduct
get it's
out
a
of-
byproduct.
out of
It's
fermenting.
It's all there. It's readily available. It's kind of hard to get away from, like unleavened bread, where they say you don't use any yeast in there, because yeast puts off the gases, carbon dioxide and so forth, that causes expansion. And so, like the matzah had no yeast in there, and so so it's a living entity that produces.
Now here's the problem, though. It's like people like me. I'm allergic to mold and get humongous headaches when I'm around mold, and so I can't drink wine. And when I used to drink wine, I would get these horrible hangovers and headaches. Red wine, just immediately. First sip I had, I would get this migraine headache.
All right. So do you add yeast to the fruit?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry if I'm sounding stupid here. Where does that come from?
What's a fungi?
I don't know what that means.
Well, it's a living organism.
So they go scrape it off a rock?
Yeah, it's kind of like
Like
that.
moss?
It's found in nature. Mhm.
Okay.
Right.
And then they would add sugar, and back then it would have been cane sugar, right? Because they didn't have sugar like we have sugar, right?
Well, the sugar we have is cane sugar.
But
I mean, the one that they process that they make sugar out of
Okay.
is cane. That's the most common.
all right. So if I took a big pickle jar, and what are those, like 2-gallon pickle jars, and I put in peaches and yeast and sugar and sealed it and kept it in what degree?
Well, you want it to be warm.
Like hot or warm?
Warm.
70 degrees.
Right. It would still do it.
And how long would it take for that to become a pickle jar full of alcohol?
Well, I'm not sure what the times are, but it could be a matter of days that it starts to form, but then it's going to take time to get to this maximum amount.
Okay. And we don't know how long that is.
No. Actually, we can produce ethanol in our own bodies.
Okay.
If you have a yeast infection, if you're a diabetic where you're producing sugar, you mix those in urine, and then urine will start to ferment, and alcohol is produced in urine.
Alcohol is produced in urine. Is that what they call toilet wine?
No, I have no idea.
Well, no, don't they make
I
in
haven't heard of
prisons?
that.
Don't they make toilet wine?
I don't know.
Oh, I thought I've seen that in a movie or something where they'll take the water in their toilet and they'll make.
Nasty. I've never heard
Well,
of
yeah, but I haven't heard of that either. But what we do is, if we test urine in the lab for alcohol, and we have to make sure that when they collect the urine sample, that they put it in a chemical called sodium fluoride that would prevent fermentation to take place.
Okay.
That way we don't get alcohol that's not caused by a person drinking, but that's created within the body itself.
Yeah, I see.
And so with the same process that creates urine, alcohol in urine is going to create it also when you mix fruit and yeast together, and yeast is from mold.
All right, grab your headphones there because we have a caller. Frank, you're live on The View from a Pew, Recovery Monday. How you doing, Frank?
Good. I think you're thinking of prison hooch.
Is that what it's called, prison hooch?
Yeah, apple pie, prison hooch. It's not made out of urine. It's made out of all the fruits that they can smuggle out of the out of the cantina, and they get it in and they put it in a bag and then they hide it in their toilet. I think is where you're coming up with.
Okay.
But have you heard this new one? Shepard Smith on Fox News today was talking about something new that's going to be released here very shortly called powdered alcohol.
I haven't
powdered alcohol.
I haven't heard of that yet.
It can be added to food. It can be cooked in food, or it can be water added with it, and apparently makes a different type of alcoholic beverages. So we're going to have our kids being blitzed with some new avenues to get drunk.
So it's like Kool-Aid, powdered Kool-Aid?
In essence, I suppose.
Oh, God, and then kids will be snorting it.
And you add water to it.
You add water to it, and apparently, according to the report I heard, it was at the end of Shepard Smith's show at 2 to 3 o'clock, and he was saying you can put it in food and cook with it, or you can add water to it, and it produces various forms of alcoholic beverages like mixed drinks, et cetera, et cetera.
Wow.
Okay, I'm looking it up on the web here. I see it says powdered alcohol, spirits distilled from cane. It would be 12% alcohol by volume, is what they're saying here, which is similar to wine. Wine's about 12%.
Okay.
But yes, this is new. I find that to be kind of interesting.
Well,
so it's really dehydrated alcohol.
That doesn't make sense to me. It seems to me like it would have to be given time to create the alcohol in there.
Wouldn't be just instant.
I'm not familiar with powdered alcohol. That's new, and I would have to really research that.
You'd have to add alcohol to it to make it work.
Yeah, I would think there'd have to be some type of a fermentation process. But I can't really, I have to read up and try to get more information on the alcohol powder. But that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
There has to be some, it says, well, let me see. According to food chemist, well, it's going to take time to read up on it. But
yeah, you look up that and we'll figure that out.
I wonder if it could be made into crystals.
Thanks for calling, Frank. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
If it could be made into crystals or something, dried up, freeze dried.
Yeah, unless they get the alcohol and somehow they put it into, they encapsulate it.
Yeah.
They already have it, and then you're just releasing it, and it's still, in a liquid form or it's containing it.
So you're saying it would be a liquid form inside of a capsule that would probably disintegrate?
Well, that's what I'm thinking, but I don't know that for a fact. I'd have to read up on it.
Okay.
But I haven't heard about it, and I do this. I haven't heard it in all the meetings I've been to.
Well, see what joy Frank brings
Yeah.
to this program.
He listens to the news.
The Voice brings in the newest and the latest. All right. 29 minutes before the top of the hour, this is Recovery Monday on Monday, the 21st, on KTIA 99.3 and also powered by webcast1live.com. So, and then wine gets better with age. And is that because the fermentation continues and the alcohol gets stronger, or what is it about aged wine?
Well, it's the flavor. Some people like food like when they have spaghetti sauce and they like it on leftovers.
Mm-hmm.
They believe it tastes better.
Yeah.
Because it's had time to age and it brings out more flavor. So it's a matter of the flavor of whatever the fruit is that when it's aged, but it's not going to give you any more alcohol.
Okay.
It's going to be limited to the alcohol that's produced.
And most fruits produce 12%.
Most wines have 12%.
Okay.
And again, if you want to go higher than what it's naturally formed, you have to distill it.
Okay, so that brings up a question. Some people say, I only drink wine, so it's not that bad. or I only drink beer, or it's
Well, I think wine is worse because there are other solvents within wine too. Some acetone and methanol, and you have more of the intoxicating stuff in lower amounts than regular alcohol that's in there, ethyl alcohol.
okay.
But you may have methanol and isopropyl alcohol and some of the other alcohols that would be in wine.
Yeah,
And so it tends to be more intoxicating.
Really?
it was with me. Oh God.
Yeah.
Was it more intoxicating or was it more hangover?
Well, I think because I was allergic to the mold, I don't know, but it reacted so differently in me than it did other people, and just immediately got this headache. But then I was always throwing up, always passing out with maybe just 1 or 2 drinks.
Now, what happens when you smell wine now? When you're in a place where people are drinking wine and you can smell it?
I'm not in places where people are drinking wine.
You don't do that? Mm-mm. What if you're at a restaurant?
Well, that isn't true. I have a sister that drinks wine all the time, but I only see her once a year. But I can't stand the smell of it, so I'm not near.
So you can't do the smell of it either?
No, I don't like it.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, and then you have to consider, well, I don't know where you were going to go, but you have to consider when a person says they only had 1 drink, what does that mean? And most of the time when I testify in court, the defendants only had 2 drinks.
Right.
How big are they? My husband used to say that I only had 2 drinks and they're about 16 ounces apiece.
Yeah. All right, let's take our next break. When we come back, I want you to explain fermentation to me. All right? And the question later that I want to pose is was alcohol created naturally, by nature, by God, to enhance the body in a positive way, and then we as humans have screwed it up by abusing it and not doing it in moderation like we do so many other sins? That's next, live here on Recovery Monday on KTIA, Iowa, powered by webcast1live.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershide.
I'm administrative manager
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
If we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, it's got to be, it's your home.
It's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're going to do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
If you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you going to say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? You can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though. I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm going to take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
.22 before the top, Salem Radio Network News, and then Michael Mudloff in True Blue. Did either one of you happen to catch the View from a Pew on Friday with Michael Mudloff and his son, Micah?
Not.
It was hilarious. It was just absolutely hilarious. This is a 16-year-old son who's been raised by a Calvinist pastor, and he just goes off to military school by his own choosing. He wanted a better education, and discovered that maybe this thing Dad's preaching isn't all that true. Now, he's still a Christian, but he doesn't believe in the limited atonement. He doesn't believe in the preserving...
Predestination?
No. The perseverance of the saints. Thank you. And so they did a show back to tremendous respect for each other, love. And they did a show back and forth and talked about this. It was pretty good. It was really good. It's on my Facebook page, or you can go to macmccoy.com and look up the different shows. It'll say shows, click down, View from the Pew, and there you go. All right, today Bob is helping us understand where alcohol comes from and how it's made. Now, before we get into the fermentation, you want to understand, like, if somebody is arrested and they blow a .08, what does that mean?
Yes.
Well, the state here, Iowa, defines alcohol as grams of alcohol per 100 milliliters of blood, or 67 of urine, or 210 liters of breath, because those are the three ways we measure. Urine, blood, and breath.
Okay.
And so a .08 is the per se level. That's the level that's basically across the entire country where you are presumed to be drunk at that level. They call it the per se. You are drunk. And so it would be 0.08 grams. Now, it used to be 0.08%, which is a very small percent.
Yeah.
When you look at that. So it doesn't take a lot of alcohol in your blood. It's alcohol that is in your blood. And we can measure it in the blood, we can measure it in the urine, and we can measure it in the breath. When a person speaks to you, if they've drank vodka, if you're close enough, you can smell the alcohol on their breath because it's coming out of their breath. It's circulating throughout the entire body, but once it gets into the lungs, alcohol molecule is very small. It comes right out of your breath, and you can smell it. So if people say you can't smell alcohol, alcohol has no odor. It has an odor. If you get 200 proof alcohol, which is 100%, and you open it up, you can smell it. I train the officers, and I say, here, pass this around. Does it have an odor? Yes, it does have an odor. That's alcohol. It's pure alcohol. Has an odor. But most of the time what we're smelling is whatever the adulterant is that they put in there. Whatever the flavoring that they have in there, you can smell it. The hops from beer and so forth. That's what you're smelling, is that, and not necessarily the alcohol, or the wine, or the grapes, or whatever the person is consuming.
So is there, let's take gin, for instance. Is gin an alcohol without the smell, and then they add the gin berry, which makes the gin smell? Or
basically, yes.
Smells like Christmas trees.
They'll work
Evergreen.
with a certain fruit or a certain product to give it the flavoring. If you go to Jack Daniel's, and they have they use this wood that they fire. They burn this wood, and then they pour the alcohol over that, which brings out that smoke flavor of that certain wood that they use. So the flavor is added basically to the alcohol, because alcohol is alcohol, whether it's in beer and wine or gin or whatever. It's the same alcohol.
Why not just drink Everclear then?
Well, because some people don't like just like Everclear or vodka, where if it doesn't have a flavor to it.
Yeah, I never drank vodka. I didn't like vodka.
People like to add it to Coke or whatever you like to drink it with.
Anything I could do with vodka, I could do with gin better.
Right. So it depends on what do you like. What's your favorite drink?
So is Everclear really dangerous? I mean, I can remember having Everclear parties. I mean, I didn't. Other kids did, but I would go to them.
It's dangerous to the fact.
Yeah.
See, the fact is, alcohol, ethyl alcohol, which is what we're talking about, is a central nervous system depressant. And so if you drink enough of it, it is going to stop your breathing.
Yeah.
And normally for people 4 to 500, 0.4 to 0.5 is fatal.
Yeah.
And so it gets to a point where you can't breathe. It stops your breathing.
No, wait, hold on. Stop. Oh, 0.4, not 0.04.
0.4.
Okay. Yeah, that's half of your bloodstream is alcohol, right?
Well,
at 0.5?
No, not really, but it's 0.5 gram per 100.
Okay.
But it's a lot of alcohol, and it can shut down your system, shut you down, where you can't even breathe on your own. Somebody has to sit there and say, breathe, 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 because you can't even automatically do it. And so when we get these cases that come in that are 400 or 500, a lot of times they're fatals that we get and we see. And so, it's not uncommon. Though it's occasionally you'll find somebody that'll test a 0.7 and they're still alive.
Yeah, I know somebody in the program who went into Lutheran to detox, or maybe it was Broadlands, and she was 0.7.
I took someone to Lutheran, and she was 3. Would it be 3?
0.3.
0.3.
That's 30%.
Yeah, that's pretty high.
Yeah.
I get a lot of 200s, 250s that I see when I do my blood cases.
Well, they weren't going to do a test on her because they said she was okay. And then I said, no, she's going to stay here. And then I got somebody to give her a test.
Well, the thing is...
They didn't think she was drunk?
Mm-mm.
See, she had a high tolerance.
Yeah.
She was very experienced. People that are very experienced drinkers can have high alcohol levels, and people may not believe that they could possibly have that high of a level.
Yeah.
But you build up a tolerance for alcohol.
I remember, this just brought back a terrible memory. I don't even know if I want to talk about this. I remember one time my wife was gone for the weekend. So I barricaded myself in the house with food and alcohol, like we do. And I got so drunk on a Saturday evening that I ended up being sober. And then I had to do it all over again to be drunk again. And I never went to sleep. Is that possible? I just remember that feeling of there's no more buzz. It's gone. I've drank myself past buzz into normal.
Well, now, I don't know the situation, but I can tell you one thing. If you eat first on a full stomach, if you have food in your stomach and you drink alcohol, you're not going to get a very high peak. Your peak's going to be low. If you drink on an empty stomach, you're going to rise pretty quick and have a higher level. So most people are going to want to drink on an empty stomach so they get the buzz.
Yeah.
But if there's food in there, that's going to compete. Your body is burning off alcohol at 1 drink per hour.
Okay, that's the other question I was going to ask.
What's one drink?
One drink
ounce?
would be 4 ounces of 12% wine, or one 12-ounce can of beer, or 1 ounce of 86 proof alcohol, one shot. That's all the same alcohol in those 3 drinks.
Okay.
So you're going to burn, let's say, 1 shot an hour will be burned out of your body, and that's going to be about a 0.015 per hour.
Okay, but how about somebody that's taller and bigger? Will they burn that off quicker?
No.
Or are they...
No,
everybody's the same.
Everybody's going to burn within a range between a 0.010 and a 0.030. Okay, in that range, people will burn, but the average comes out to be a 0.015 over time. So 1 hour you may burn off a 10, 1 hour you may burn off a 25, 1 hour you may burn off a 15. You see what I'm saying? But the average burn off would be a 0.015 per hour. So you're burning all the time. So if you don't want to get intoxicated, you want to have food in your stomach before you add the alcohol.
And is there a food better than another food?
Well,
I always heard bread was better.
Well, the alcohol will get into that food and absorb, meaning that it'll be in the food, and therefore it's not going to be getting into your system as fast.
Right.
It slows down the absorption. So fatty foods, that type, bacon or eggs, protein, you put that in there, and then it's going to keep your peak very low.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you're still burning. So once it comes in, you're burning alcohol. You have to remember you're metabolizing. That's what I call burning, metabolizing or oxidizing. And your body's getting rid of it. It's converting it. The other thing to remember, too, is that, a lot of times you've heard women are called cheap drunks.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, if you give a man that weighs 100 pounds and a woman that weighs 100 pounds the same amount of drinks, the woman will have a higher alcohol level.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Because she's female.
Because she's a female. It's your body composition and a lack of a certain enzyme that doesn't break down alcohol before it gets into the blood system.
Wow.
Okay, and then how about, so my son who's 6'7", when he.
Hold on just
Okay.
a second. We're up against a break. We'll come back.
Okay.
We'll start with Ty as soon as we get back, and then I want to hear a little bit about fermentation. We're coming back live here on 99.3 KTIA, powered by webcast1live.com. I'm J. Michael McCoy, if I haven't told you lately. Thanks for listening. Love this job. Couldn't do it without you. Right here on KTIA, Iowa.
A father who is headed toward another heart attack. A woman who struggles daily with diabetes and her memory. A boy whose headaches keep him out of school. A mother who one morning discovers a lump. A girl whose condition defies diagnosis. You come to us because you need answers, but you also need more. You need understanding of what you're going through. You need comfort. You need to be treated as an individual, not a condition. You need to be included in your own care. You are the point of everything we do. That's why we're changing to Unity Point Health. It's a model of care that will help us work better together, where the physician who knows you best takes the lead, coordinating your care through every step, from the hospital to specialists to rehabilitation to health services in the home and in the community, to making sure the treatments are effective. By working as a team, we surround you with care, helping you manage your health and your conditions, guiding you to making better choices and living a healthier life. The point of Unity is you. Unity Point Health.
If you choose to obey the power of sin, it leads to death. If you choose to obey obedience, it leads to righteousness.
Forgiveness is just the beginning of life in Christ. God wants us to live for Him now.
And because of Jesus Christ, the gospel was preached, and you and I are blessed today because of Abraham. Did you know that? We're blessed.
Experience Truth, 99.3 FM.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
10 before the top Salem Radio Network news, and then Michael Mudloff. I'm J. Michael McCoy. This is Recovery Monday with Lila Stafford from Powell CDC and Bob Monserrate, the cat in the hat, who in real life isn't just a cat in the hat, but he's a forensic scientist with the state of Iowa and is an expert on alcohol. Now, you were going to ask a question about your son.
Yeah, okay, so my son is 6'7", and he's always saying, well, I'm 6'7", so I metabolize beer or whatever he's drinking differently so I can have more.
No, it's based on weight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if
he weighs 200 pounds.
Okay, so a 200-pound person can drink twice as much as a 100-pound person to get to the same level. Okay, so if a 100-pound person has one drink and it brings them to a 0.02, it would take 2 drinks to get the 200-pound to the same place.
Okay.
So basically, the heavier you are, the more alcohol you can take to get to a certain level.
Okay.
Talk to me about fermentation. We understand about wine, but what about alcohol?
Well,
or not fermentation, distilled.
Right. You know, the moonshiners, they have the big stills you see out in the woods in there. And so what they're taking is after they do go through the fermentation process, it'll only produce so much alcohol. And it's a low percentage. So in order to get it to a high percentage, you have to have a distillery. And that's what they have all over the world. But they have to distill it, and so they have to eliminate the water, and that would concentrate the actual alcohol itself. So you keep concentrating it, and that raises the amount. So if you have 50%, so you have 50% water and 50% alcohol.
And that would be a 25 proof. No, that'd be 100 proof.
100 proof, right. So if you have a 200 proof, that's 100% alcohol. And so it's very hard to have 200 proof because alcohol will take water from the atmosphere. If you open up a sealed container that had 200 proof, it was actually 100%, which is hard to get to. As soon as you open that cap, it starts taking water from the air into that, and it'll bring it down to, and we do that. You know, when we make our standards, we buy 200 proof, we open it, make our solutions, and then we close it, and then after that, we can't make any more solutions from that.
Whoa, yeah.
Because we're losing that alcohol.
Diluted, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The air adds water to it. So, yeah. So when you look at the labels now, I don't think they even put proof on anymore, do they? I mean,
I haven't looked at a bottle for years.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think they're going to percentage now.
Mm-hmm.
So if you buy a beer, it'll say 3.2 or 4% or 5 or 6 or 7%. But when you think about it, and that's the thing with the jury has to understand when you're explaining alcohol is that when a person has a beer, it's the same as 1 ounce of 86 proof alcohol or in
That's
that
what
area.
I think the public doesn't understand.
Right. It's
And
the
that's what I was
same
saying
amount.
when they say, I just drink beer.
Right.
Or, and it's like, no, it's the same thing.
Right. So if six glasses or bottles of beer that are 12 ounce will be the same as 6 shots of whiskey.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the same alcohol equivalent.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing you have to understand on that. So they're distilling to raise the concentration of alcohol, so you have a higher alcohol content. And so we go in and we can estimate the amount of alcohol a person has to drink based on their weight. We can calculate. So for a 155-pound person, 5 drinks in the system, and now you know what a drink is.
Yeah.
5 drinks in the system would get that person to a 0.10.
Ah, okay.
Okay. And so you're adding about 0.02. Every drink adds about 0.02 to the system, but you have to consider the person's burning off alcohol.
Right.
So if they drink, 5 within 15 minutes, about the end of the hour, 1 drink has been processed out. And so we can calculate. So when we see somebody has a 200 alcohol level, and we know they weigh 155 pounds, then you say, well, they had to have at least 10 drinks. And I say at least because you're burning off 1 every hour. So if there was 5 hours or 10 hours that before, the person could have had 20 drinks. You see what I'm saying? But the body burned off 1 an hour. So we can calculate approximately how much a person had to drink.
So
in a certain amount of time.
Certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a $100 question. Why don't we just eliminate alcohol?
Well,
what good does it do?
Well, that's what Prohibition did. And, of course, everybody, it was just like the marijuana thing. Marijuana, if you know the right people, is very readily available. People are going to do it anyway. And the argument is that when you're bootlegging, then, there's a lot of crime involved.
And you don't know what you're getting.
And you don't know what you're getting. And so there are no controls over that. So so the thing is, if the government gets involved and then they start to test this to make sure that what you're doing in your factory is putting out the right product and you're not poisoning people, killing people, then that's supposed to be better, which it is, but it still has alcohol in there and people are going to do it and change their behavior. And it causes people to, affects the brain. It's a depressant. When a person that might not say something to an individual that would hurt them, it's easier when you have alcohol in there. And you probably know that. Mm-hmm. That once your mind has been changed by that alcohol, you're going to say things and do things you normally wouldn't do.
I think that's why I drank. Okay, I had a question for you. I forgot what it was, but I have another question. Do you know of any country where alcohol,
Islam.
They really don't drink there?
There's no alcohol in Islam.
I mean, they're not supposed to drink.
Yeah.
And there are big crimes for that in those countries, even though I'm sure they do. But
yeah.
Right.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. And in some of the other countries outside the U.S., they have a lower per se level, meaning that 0.5 or 0.2, very low.
Yeah. We had a guy on the radio the other day that he moved from Minnesota to down here, and the beer is like twice as strong down here. So he'd drink twice as much beer down here as he did in alcohol in Minnesota.
It used to be the opposite because our cottage is right on the border of Minnesota and Iowa, and we used to go across the border to get Minnesota's liquor.
Yeah.
But now you can get malt liquors. I mean, there are different beers that have different concentrations of alcohol that you can have. And so, and it's a big thing. When people go to court, they try to come up with defenses like, well, my client took his drinks and then got in his car and drove, but the alcohol didn't absorb in his body when he was stopped. And so, after he was stopped, he went to blow, then he came to his peak. Oh. And That's why there's a 2-hour presumption in the law to cover these defenses.
Oh, I didn't know there was.
I once heard if you put a bunch of pennies in your mouth, you wouldn't blow alcohol.
Well, the only problem is it may cause you physical difficulties trying to get air out of your mouth if you have it full of coins, but it's not going to chemically do anything.
Okay. So there's nothing you can do when you get pulled over to take away, to beat a breathalyzer test.
Correct.
I learned a lot today, thanks. I don't know. I just so thankful that I don't do that anymore. And just madder than heck that I ever started, you know? Because when you start drinking at 34, you really are stupid. You know, at 14, 16, peer pressure, high school, that's one thing.
Yeah, but you learned what you needed to learn. I mean, you've learned other things other than staying away from alcohol and being in programs. So, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a problem that is not going to go away.
All right. We'll see you tomorrow with Tom Coates, Van Harden from WHO, Will Rogers, and some more folks tomorrow on View from the Pew right here on KTIA. Until I see you again, do me one favor, would you? Just one. Just pray.